Yes, history matters, despite the fact we have about 15 states that are trying to whitewash it, erase it, dismiss it, or ban it. But also what matters, especially when it comes to Donald Trump in this breaking story, is pattern of behavior. You cannot ignore that, because when it comes to what you have to do to at least create evidentiary history, when you're the minority party, like the Dems currently are, you have to make sure that you do everything you can to force history, because Donald Trump will always play this game right here.
It is the news story. President Trump just can't seem to escape week over week. We're talking, of course, about Epstein. So during a press gathering earlier today, President Trump was asked whether he would consider a pardon for convicted trafficker and Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell.
Well, I'm allowed to give her a pardon. Nobody's approached me with it. Nobody's asked me about it. Right now, it would be inappropriate to talk about it.
When somebody who has power has to remind you that they're allowed, and then they also, when you're Donald Trump, say, well, no one's talked to me about it, you already know he is and going to think about doing it.
That's not a no. For sure, Maxwell would like a pardon. Who in her circumstances wouldn't want one, right?
And then, of course, you have Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney, when they just sat down to speak with her in prison, who likes to pose this.
So we don't have more than what Maxwell's attorney said Friday afternoon, Reed, in which he said that she had answered all the questions accurately. She did not plead any kind of Fifth Amendment protections.
Wait, what? No immunity? Didn't ask for the fifth. Folks, she's already in jail, and part of the reason she's in jail is because she lied under oath. Good Christ. And then, of course, you have the Deputy Department of Justice Attorney to Pam Bondi, Todd Blanche, saying this.
Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, who was leading these conversations with Ghislaine Maxwell, said that he would release what the outcome was of these conversations at the appropriate time.
Oh yeah, you always gotta love at the appropriate time. This sounds like some sort of school shooting. We can't discuss the NRA, right? But of course, we have to cover the very end of this, which is about the future conversations and immunity. This.
It's unclear when that could be. We've pressed the Justice Department for more, in addition to whether there could potentially be other conversations with Maxwell going down the road, and whether there was some kind of immunity granted to her either before or after those conversations. Certainly this political football really has been passed between Congress, the Justice Department, and the White House.
And that's what brings us to our breaking story, because one of the sharpest things I've seen done recently is to push the Department of Justice to make a public comment, but doing it based on concern for what other foreign countries might get on Trump per compromat and use it against him. And Chuck Schumer, along with the Senate Judiciary Committee, just dropped an excellent legal bomb right here. Breaking news. U.S. Senator from New York, Chuck Schumer, who's on the Senate Judiciary Committee, has a new in-playbook concept. Leader Schumer today will take to the Senate floor to call on the FBI to undertake a counterintelligence threat assessment of Trump-Epstein connections. Schumer wants a risk management to examine whether foreign countries might have tried to access the Epstein files and possibly use the information therein as leverage over Trump. The Senate Judiciary Democrats have sent a letter to Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche seeking a public commitment that the DOJ will not advocate for a pardon or commutation for Ghislaine Maxwell in exchange for her cooperation. Sample of the U.S. Senate letter here. Dear Deputy Attorney General Blanche, we are writing to follow up on Ranking Member Durbin's initial inquiry of July 18, 2025, requesting information from Attorney General Bondi regarding the unsigned July 7 memorandum detailing the Trump administration's, in quotes, exhaustive review of investigative holdings relating to Jeffrey Epstein. Since that time, you have taken steps that raise more questions about the Department of Justice's transparency and mismanagement of information as it relates to the Jeffrey Epstein investigation and prosecution. On July 22nd, you posted on social media that, in quotes, for the first time the Department of Justice is reaching out to Ghislaine Maxwell to ask, what do you know? Pursuant to public reporting, this meeting occurred on July 24, 2025, and continued the following day while Ms. Maxwell is currently incarcerated in a Federal Bureau of Prisons facility serving a 20-year sentence for her central role in Jeffrey Epstein's heinous crimes. The purpose and timing of this meeting are perplexing. Miss Maxwell was federally indicted and arrested in July of 2020 during the first Trump administration. In addition to conspiracy and trafficking charges, Ms. Maxwell was charged with 2 counts of perjury stemming from false statements she made in a civil deposition while under oath regarding her role in facilitating the abuse of minors by Mr. Epstein. You see what they did there? They're putting it on record, evidence, history. This is important, that we want a public announcement. Public. It's one of my favorite lines from the movie Legends of the Fall when Anthony Hopkins' character reminds the corrupt people trying to kill Brad Pitt. They say it's a private matter, and Anthony Hopkins responds with, "But that's a public office you hold." That's right, it is. And when the Senate Judiciary Committee puts to the DOJ, we want a public announcement made that you're not going to seek a pardon, which signals to everyone we're keeping this in-house. You start talking about pardons, and all of a sudden, we get all the way back to Trump sitting with Vladimir Putin, somehow claiming that he trusts Putin more than his own intelligence committee. This is the reason why this breaking story is so very important. You have to put it on record, that you have to go out and make a public statement, because when they don't, history will remind us all that the Department of Justice was really just functioning in his second term full out as Trump's personal, protective, obstructive entity and attorney. You guys stay frosty.